Okay, and just a follow-up for Fedor, is there a higher level of excitement on his part going into the tournament? I mean, given the level of talent and the potential dream matchups?
У меня всегда больше интерес. Я всегда стараюсь готовиться максимально хорошо. Но сейчас, конечно, будет интересно выступать, потому что будет оставаться более сильный, больше следов. Каждым разом выходить более сильный в следующий круг.
Well, certainly. Well, first of all, I always have a high level of excitement and enjoyment for fighting, no matter who it is. I always train to my maximum level for any fight. But certainly there is a higher level of excitement here because in every round I know that I'll be meeting with one of the best fighters in the world, and it's very exciting to know that that every single fight in this tournament will be consisting of world class athletes.
George, this question is for you. Having accomplished so much in your career thus far and basically cleaning out the welterweight division, what keeps you motivated at this point?
Shecky is very good at keeping me motivating about with everything that he's saying about me. So he's very good at it. I should say thanks to him. He keeps me very, very motivating.
BJ, having accomplished so much in your career, what keeps you motivated at this point overall?
I think what keeps me motivated is I don't want to go and sit in the bar and drink. I want to, there's not much to do in Hilo, and when I got home after this fight, and there was a couple of days, I trained for a couple of days, and a couple of days when I just hung out and I didn't have anything to do, and I drove around the town one day and I was like, man, there's nothing to do. I way rather be, training to fight in the octagon, and I think once you've been where me, Lyoto, Rampage, and that have been, a lot of other stuff, it just seems boring, and this is the only thing that keeps me feeling like I have something to live for. As soon as Dana gave me that text, he said, you want to take a fight with Matt Hughes? I got chicken skin all over my body, and I was like, I got a reason to live for a couple more months. I think fighters are just used to that adrenaline.
Mirko, you mentioned in an interview a few weeks back that you didn't feel 5 weeks of preparation was enough time to go full force. Being as though we're a little longer than a week away from the fight, do you feel that still holds true?
Well, at the end of the day, that's my problem. I take the responsibility on my back, and it's true. It's true. I was invited to take the fight 5 weeks before, and but it means nothing. I will give my best. And I'm aware that Frank is an extraordinary fighter. And but after 20 years of training, and I think I should be ready. I should be ready. Even I had a so short time for preparation, but I don't want to look for excuse in that, and it doesn't have to mean anything, It doesn't have to mean anything.
And for Frank, you mentioned after the Carwin fight that you were focusing less on putting muscle and size on and more on refining your technique. Has that held true for this camp for UFC 119?
No, very much so. Right now I'm walking around between 250 and 255. It depends on, I guess what I've done before. Now in this camp, I'm not trying to force myself to be a certain size and just let my weight fall where it falls. I feel much healthier, quicker, and my speed's always been my advantage, especially when it comes to submissions, how fast I can fire them off and catch them. Playing back into that has been my advantage.
Being as though that Gray Maynard's your one blemish on your record, and it's been quite some time, how do you feel you've overall evolved since the first fight with Gray?
I just think I grew as a fighter. Mentally, physically, I've possessed different skills, increased. I think our boxing got better, my jiu-jitsu got better, and
just have much more experience now.
Thanks a lot, Frankie. The best of luck to both of you guys.
Thank you.
And we'll go next to Matt Benzella with CageReligion.com.
Hi, this is a follow-up for Frankie. Frankie, having defended the title once already against arguably one of the best lightweights in the world, on BJ Penn, does that take a bit of the pressure off?
I think there's pressure in every fight. I'll be honest with you, I think the pressure gets more and more the more I go on, But it's all about dealing with it and, coping with it and making sure it doesn't affect you. And so far it hasn't.
All right, again, thanks a lot, Frankie.
No problem.
So what were your overall thoughts on the fight?
Look, I've got an array of emotions about that fight. One, I am a fighter, and I have been in the cage before, and I know that when you have two guys who are capable of winning the fight anywhere, that tends to nullify them both. I mean, you kind of become kind of stagnant. If I know that every time I'm going to make a move, you could possibly counter that move and finish me, then I'm a little bit weary about doing it. And if you know the same thing about every time you do anything, if there's something that could possibly come out of me, in the fight, that makes guys really stagnant. So therefore, I understand why the fight went the way it went. Now, from the fan point of view, that was probably one of the most boring fights I'd ever seen. That fight was ridiculously dull. It was amazingly boring, and it was so bad. It was such a boring fight that when we were watching the screen and when the knee came and he knocked him out, nobody reacted because we were looking at it, but we didn't see. Our eyes were pointed towards the screen, but I don't think anybody was actually seeing or registering anything. We had to stop and say, oh, wait a minute, the fight's over? Then we had to rewind it and watch it again. And then listening to the crowd didn't even cheer. The fight was so dull that nobody even cared when it was over with. When St-Pierre knocked out Crocop, nobody cared, man.
All right, Brian, before we get going, give us a quick prediction on how you see the Pets fight going this Wednesday.
I'm willing to do whatever he wants to do, man. If he sticks his chin a little bit too far out there, then I'm going to stick in the second row. If, he overcompensates on the right hand a little too much, then he's going for a ride. Just whatever, man. I'm willing to do what he wants to do.
It can honestly be argued that Strikeforce may have the deepest heavyweight roster around right now. Talk a bit about the direction of the heavyweights and some of the things we can expect to see in the coming months.
Well, honestly, if you look at this heavyweight division Strikeforce has, it's top to bottom. We're going to see some amazing fights. And, I think it is the most proven, tested, and best heavyweight division in MMA right now. And, we're going to put some amazing fights together because what we're going to do next year is we're going to have all these guys fight each other. And the beauty of it is, you'll be able to tune in and watch it on Showtime for free and watch the best heavyweights in the world go at it.
And now, what goes through your mind when you hear people say George St-Pierre has basically cleaned out the welterweight division? Do you feel people have kind of overlooked you in a sense?
Well, I definitely think I deserve a shot at the title. There's always up and coming guys. That I see guys coming up through the ranks that are probably going to be contenders very soon. So in this day and age of the sport, I think that there's going to be you can't. I don't know. I just think that there's more fighters coming up and quicker than a champion can actually beat them.
Let's talk a bit about the judging. I think the general feeling is that the judges' nod should have been in your favor, actually. What went through your head when Bruce Buffer announced that Sean Shirk was actually the winner?
I was thinking, I was pissed off with myself for allowing the first round to go the way that it did and taking too long. Sometimes I'm a slow starter, and I was just disappointed that, that affected me in that way and, caused me to lose the fight. But, I was pretty bummed out about it. I thought I had, as soon as the fight was over, I thought I had done enough to win.
What are your thoughts on the WEC and UFC merger? Being as though you're a lightweight, this could make for some very interesting fights for you.
Yeah, more competition, and I invite that. I love that, so, come one, come off.
water's warm. Let's jump in.
Now, after the fight, there have been varying reports of a backstage scuffle involving yourself and Nick Diaz. Can you touch a bit on what actually happened?
Yeah, no, this guy, like a woman, throws something at me. You know what I mean? From far away. Like as soon as he walks by me, he had his chance. He's walking up towards me. He walks by me, and then as he's walking away, and there's people in between us, he throws stuff at me. I'm like, come on, man. You know, he throws a lot about it. Like, well, what's next? You know, you're gonna throw your purse. You're gonna throw your earrings. You're gonna throw. What are you gonna do? You know, you're gonna throw your panties at me. I mean, that's happened to me before. I'm sure it could happen again.
Now, do you feel the Shogun's going to be your toughest test to date, or how do you feel on that?
You know, every fight that I have to do is always going to be my toughest test because it's always the next fight. You know, I think Shogun will present challenges that Rampage didn't, and but that's not to say Rampage didn't present any challenges, but it'd just be different. You know, just be different challenges.
Now, there's a story about an altercation involving Frank Trigg and yourself in an elevator. Can you explain the story to the listeners?
Well, I'll tell it briefly. I don't want to go through the whole thing because, quite honestly, if you do Google Frank Trigg talks about fight with Bruce Buffer in an elevator, you'll get his radio show, and you'll hear him tell it, and that's the best way to listen to it. Mm-hmm. But Frank and I are friends, and Frank, at the time, one of the top 10 welterweights in the world, was weighing around 195, hair growing out, and we had just had a show at the Spike show at the Hard Rock, and we happened to be with Mike Goldberg, and we were all together. And we're walking in the elevator, and there's Dana White and his security man, Tom. And before the doors closed, Frank was immediately, when can I get back in the octagon? As Frank would do, Frank's a strong character. And I had stepped in front of Frank's vision of Dana, as I was walking in to look at Dana's wristband, and because he had this cool wristband, and I'm a watch freak. And I caught a ridge hand to the throat. And I turned around, it was Frank, and I'm like, Frank, you hit me. Why the blank did you hit me? And he said the wrong thing to me. He said, what are you going to do about it? Acting all tough. And I just reacted, and I punched him twice in the stomach, up, down. And that's where it started. So doors closed, 10 floors, we're having fun. And everybody else is peeled up against the side of the elevator while Frank and I go at it. And then when the doors open at the bottom, we decided to stop because you can spin out in the glass out there in the Hard Rock. It's dangerous. It's bad. That's bad public opinion. You know what the kind of stuff you get out. So we stopped it real quick, but I had blood up and down my shirt. My finger was peeled back to the bone, and I guess I kind of busted it up in one of his belt buckles or his ring, or God knows what Frank was wearing. And I wound up getting stitches and going out having a nice time, and I announced the UFC that night, got a friendly tete-a-tete with Frank Trigg, and as Dana will tell it, as he told everybody, he'll tell you, I definitely, did what I had to do and held my own, quite definitely. So it was a fun night. Felt like I was 25 years old all over again.
Knowing the sport as well as you do you feel there will ever be a promotion that can compete with the UFC, sort of in the way that Pride did?
I believe that there will be, because I believe anytime anything like football or basketball or any of those things, you have to have competition, because competition is success. If you don't have competition, it'll die. It will die because people will get tired. It was like WWF and WCW back in the day when they were having those wars on Monday Night Raw. It was amazing because it was competition and people wanted to see who had the best show. UFC has to have competition. If it doesn't, in a few years it'll die. It has to have competition or it won't survive.
Having handled thousands upon thousands of fights, what is the one worst cut you've ever witnessed?
Ooh, I've seen tons of them. I'm glad I'm not the one that worked on Diego Sanchez when BJ hit him with a nice kick. But I did work on the one on Marvin Eastman when Vitor Belfort had him, kicked him or kneed him, I should say. And that was, overall, when you look at size and ugliness, that one was pretty ugly. And so I have to say, Vitor hitting Marvin Eastman on the forehead with a knee has to be the biggest cut I've ever worked.